Good evening and welcome to the Dubois County Meet the Candidates Forum at the Jasper Arts Center, sponsored by the Jasper Chamber of Commerce, Vincennes University Jasper, and our local media partners. None of these organizations or the venue have any political opinions or affiliations. My name is Christian Blume. I'm Dean of the Vincennes University Jasper campus, and I will serve as your moderator this evening. The forum is being broadcast via radio, Facebook Live, recorded for later broadcast, and will be reported on by print media. All candidates were required to wear a mask upon entry into the facility today and will be seated according to social distancing guidelines. Masks may be removed when at the speaker's podium, and as a reminder to the candidates, as you approach the podium, please spray the microphone and wipe your hands with sanitizer. Tonight's forum will include introductions by each candidate and a portion where I will ask a series of topical questions. Be yourself, be authentic, and be thoughtful of how you share information. This is not a debate. We will begin with introductions. Unopposed candidates will only speak during introduction and will be allotted up to 3 minutes. Opposed candidates will have up to 2 minutes to introduce themselves and then will be given 3 minutes to answer each of 3 questions. You will be prompted with a warning at 1 minute remaining, again at 30 seconds, and then when your time has concluded. Questions for this evening's forum were written by our local media partners and were not provided in advance to any of the candidates. Let's start now with introductions. We have 2 unopposed candidates here this evening for County Council: County Commissioner Chad Blessinger and Dubois County Surveyor Ken Brosmer. Mr. Blessinger, I invite you to the podium first for your up to 3 minute introduction.
"12 years ago, I was a nervous first-time candidate, and we had a meeting very similar to this, on a stage similar to this, up at the new classroom building, I believe it was called. And I'd like to say something tonight that is about the same thing that I said that night. And what that is that I want to give my sincere thanks to each candidate that's on the stage tonight, as well as all the other elected officials that are currently serving in office and the elected officials that have served our community in the past. Putting your name on the ballot and having yourself on the line and opening yourself up to public scrutiny, it takes courage. A type of courage not many or not a lot of us have at times. And we always need quality people to step up to perform the public's business and to serve the community in which we live. And so I sincerely thank the people that are on the stage tonight of both political parties and for all these positions. The people that we have serving our community deserve our thanks. So good evening, and my name is Chad Blessinger. I'm the current Dubois County Commissioner for District 1 in Dubois County. What that covers is most of the northern part of the county, those townships, and most of them on the west side of the county. And I've served as the Dubois County Commissioner President for the past 3 years. I'm the President of the 911 Advisory Board, Vice President of the Dubois County Community Corrections, I apologize. Vice President of that board, and I'm a member of the Dubois County Child Protection Team, among other things, as part of my role as a County Commissioner. I'm finishing my first term as a commissioner, and I'm unopposed in this general election, so I just wanted to take this opportunity, truthfully, to hear what everybody else had to say, and this gave me an opportunity to be here, and also to just thank the community for the support they've given me over the term that I've had so far. I look forward to serving again the next 4 years. I look forward to continuing the work that the commissioners have done on county infrastructure, things such as the county roads, county bridges, supporting improvements to the Dubois County Park and our airport, as well as taking actions that we try to do every month to improve the health, safety, and general well-being of Dubois County and our great citizens. It's a real honor to serve the community, and I thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Blessinger. Next, I'd invite Mr. Brosmer.
Good evening. My name's Ken Brosmer, Jasper High School grad, 1979, Purdue University, 1983, with a bachelor's degree in land surveying. I was elected in 1992, and I'm still currently your county surveyor. So just for the people watching and for everyone's information, I'd like to tell you some of my duties, which a lot of people may not understand. First of all, I do the 911 addressing outside the incorporated cities and towns of Ferdinand, Jasper, and Huntingburg. So if you need an address, you would call me. We have some legal ditches in the county that were dredged in the late 1800s and early 1900s. About 10 to 11. Not too much activity in our county since we are kind of hilly. And my favorite thing to do and my passion is cornerstone perpetuation, which in 1805, the federal government surveyed southern Indiana as they started in southern Indiana, moved north. So they said approximately 2,000 points, and unfortunately they used wood post. So about the Civil War, the county surveyors like myself came through and set cornerstones. And that's what we're finding today. And we are using GPS and GPSing those points for future reference, and landowners and surveyors to use those points so we can keep our county organized and everyone using the same point. So we're down to like 35 more points in our county, and we're going to be totally monumented and GPS, so I'm really looking forward to that. And we're only want to be one of the few counties in the state that have accomplished that. So I've been working really hard to get that complete, and hopefully in the next few months to the next year we can accomplish that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Brosmer. Next, I'd like to invite our candidates for Circuit Court Judge to do their introduction. We will start with Judge Nathan Verkamp. You have up to 2 minutes for an introduction.
Good evening. Again, my name is Nathan Verkamp. I am your judge of the Dubois Circuit Court. I want to thank the Jasper Chamber of Commerce, BUJC, and the local media for hosting this event tonight. A little bit about myself. I went to elementary school in Ferdinand, graduated from Jasper High School. 10 days out of high school, I was in boot camp in the United States Navy. During that period of time, I spent 3.5 years on board the aircraft carrier USS Carl Vinson. I attained the rate of electronic warfare specialist petty officer second class. Honorably discharged after we did a cruise in the Persian Gulf in support of Operation Desert Shield. I came back to Jasper for a period of time, and I worked in a wood factory. I worked on a farm. I ended up going to Bloomington, IU, and got my bachelor's degree, and then on to McKinney School of Law and attained my law degree. I came back into general practice with my father, married a beautiful wife, Jody Schwank. We have 3 children. I belong to numerous civic organizations, PTO. I've coached. As your judge, I've worked hard to ensure the safety and the well-being of the community. It's more than being a judge of a case. It's an opportunity to make an impact on someone's life. We have implemented a number of programs, 2 of which that I'm proud of. Our truancy program, we worked with all 4 school corporations to get kids back in school. And I'm proud to say that we've had children graduate that otherwise would not have. And also our family court project that gives parents a say in the outcome of their custody case, because when parents can get along, co-parent, our children are the winners. Please ask around in this election. Educate yourself. It's about the people of Dubois County and not politics. I believe that you will find that I have earned your vote and your confidence for another term as your Dubois Circuit Court Judge. I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Verkamp. I will now continue with our 3 topical questions. You have 3 minutes to respond to each of those questions. The first question, in light of the majority of local crimes being drug-related, how do you balance punitive measures and rehabilitative services in regards to those individuals committing the crimes?
All right, well, I guess the first thing we're going to have to all agree on, for that to even be remotely true, is that alcohol is a drug. Alcohol is a drug. In circuit court, I don't come close to the majority of the cases being drug-related. I think by the stats that I was given on Tuesday by our QCI specialist, Ms. Wood, that actually only 11% of my cases are actually drug-related. The way we've divided our cases, circuit court receives the cases with crimes against the person where there's a victim. So murders, your sex offenses, burglaries, robberies, batteries, domestic violence cases, they all come before the circuit court. But we can't kid ourselves that most of those people do in fact have an issue with respect to drugs and alcohol. I think what we need to do is be honest with ourselves first. And we need to start treating substance abuse as it truly is. It's a substance abuse disorder. The brain is one of the largest organs in the body. And after a period of time of using a substance, it really does rewire the brain. So it's a disease, just like cancer, and we need to treat it the same. Now understand, there is a component with respect to community safety and deterrence. But Article 1, Section 18 of our Constitution is real clear. It says that the penal code is for reformation and not for vindictive punishment. So we need to find that balancing act between community safety and a deterrence, but at the very same time, we're getting people help in the right way from the start, including in prison, programs such as purposeful incarceration. Then if they're in their local security centers and jails, there needs to be programming to help those people onto our community corrections programs and probation so that we're seamlessly providing the same service, not only in the community, but in our corrections facilities as well. So, as I said, it's a fine balancing act, but we need to recognize that just sitting in jail is not going to cure a person or help them on the back end. Thank you.
Thank you. What do you feel is the role of a judge pertaining to organizations such as CASA, the Court-Appointed Special Advocate, SWICAC, Southwestern Indiana Child Advocacy Center Coalition, Crisis Connection, and others involving families and children?
Say, what is the role?
What do you feel is the role of a judge pertaining to these organizations?
Thank you. All right, so I guess if you're not familiar with the system, probably what you just heard was somewhat of an alphabet soup. CASA, Court-Appointed Special Advocate, SWICAC, Southwest Indiana Child Advocacy Center, and then of course Crisis Connection. There's a lot more players in the system. The Department of Child Service, we have our local law enforcement, we have our mental health providers. Now, of course, they each come into play at different spots within the criminal justice system and are the chins. A lot of the CASA's a child in need of services with the Department of Child Services, so they provide different roles. Now, some of those programs, or one of them, CASA program, is under my budget. I have direct supervision. The other programs, I would say what my role as the judge is to be an advocate for those programs, to be good to my word. When I say I'm going to be there, I'm going to show up. If I say I'm not going to do something, they understand my position. You need to be true to yourself and true to your word. But I believe that what I can lend those organizations, and I have led those organizations, is leadership, knowledge of the law, my life's experiences, and common sense. So that when we meet as a group and as an organization trying to collaborate, I can lead that meeting and provide some basis as to why I feel something needs to be done, because not everybody necessarily understands why I made a certain ruling, but my rulings are grounded by the rule of law and the statutes as I find them. So I can get out and explain that and show up and speak when given the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. And last, in light of the Security Center project, what changes do you think need to be made in the county's justice system to make it better?
It's kind of an interesting question because, as we all know, we are kind of looking into a security center project. Not to say that we don't need a new jail or it needs to be upgraded, but I think what we have to do at first is understand what's going on within the community right now. We owe, I think we all owe Dubois County Community Foundation a real debt of gratitude, because what's being done right now to change those systems. The Community Foundation has saw the value in the system, has put in place a community development partners through community solutions. And so what that is we've been meeting for well over a year now. I know Chad's on that, meets with us. A number of other people. We've got the mayors, police departments, mental health providers, community professionals, businesses and corporations. And what we're doing is, and I think this group recognizes the fact that substance abuse is our #1 problem. Even though, like I said, in my court, the people that I deal with may not have an underlying criminal charge for a drug and alcohol offense, but that burglary may have been because they went to the house to rifle through the medicine cabinet. So we've got to recognize that, and that's what this group is doing, is trying to recognize that. And they've identified intercepts within our system where people enter the system from the point where they first become addicted to substances. They're not involved in the system at all, to their arrest, their incarceration, and then out the back end with community corrections and probation. This group has done a wonderful job in identifying resources within the community already that we can use. Jasper Engines, Kimball International, OFS have all been working with the group, and they're willing to give people a first interview as they come out of work release, out of our community corrections, and out of our security center, to give them a good, high-paying job, a hand up, not a handout, and they earn it then. But the one thing that we really lack in this community, we've identified, is that this community does not have inpatient substance abuse treatment of any sort or kind. And there's a real need, because right now, if you have a substance abuse problem, you're going to end up going maybe to the hospital to detox, then you're going to get sent to Life Springs for follow-up treatment, but there's no place for you to go and get intensive treatment for your addiction each and every day in an inpatient facility. So there's a lot of great things being done already, and I just look forward to being your judge for another term so I could continue in these programs. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Verkamp. I'd like to note that Judge Verkamp's opponent for Circuit Court Judge Kevin Kraus did not respond to our request to participate this evening. You may be seated.
Thank you.
Before we begin with our candidates for County Council, I would like to share some information with the voters. Those who wish to vote a straight party ticket should be advised that marking a single party on the ballot does not register votes for at-large or school board candidates. Since the Dubois County Council includes at-large candidates, if you wish to vote for any of the 6 running for 3 seats or any of the school board candidates, you must mark these separately on your ballot. Next, I'd like to invite all our candidates for County Council to each give a 2-minute introduction. As a reminder to the candidates, as you approach the podium, please spray the microphone and wipe your hands with sanitizer. We will begin with Matt Brosmer.
Hi, everybody. My name is Matt Brosmer. I was born here, raised here, and lived here most of my life, and I care a lot about Dubois County and everybody that lives here, and I think it's a very great place to live. And I went to Jasper High School, graduated in 2008, and then afterwards I went to college. I went to Ivy Tech in Bloomington, and then after there I went to Indiana University, graduated in 2013, and I got a major in history and sociology, a bachelor's degree, as well as a religious studies minor. And ever since college, through those studies, I have gained a political insight, and I care for politics and individuals, and especially my grandpa Adi Betts, who was always involved in politics, and it just runs in my blood and in my family, and as well as Kenny, my uncle behind here, is the county surveyor. And after studying at IU, I moved out to DC, and I worked in some nonprofit areas doing criminal justice and drug policy related work, and that was more or less focused on racial disparities within our criminal justice system, preventative or rehabilitation measures that show that there's a societal benefit and we actually gain money from those programs. And then after that, I moved back here in 2016, and I worked in various jobs, and I feel that, as I've said before, that this community is very great, and I think it has a lot to offer, and running for council is one of those things I think can be a valuable person because of the experience and everything that I've had. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brosmer. Next is Todd Cassidy.
Thank you, VUJC, for having us out here. It's a real pleasure, and thank you for the Chamber of Commerce for putting this on. I'd like to preface this talk by saying that I'm not a talker, I'm more of a listener. And I promise that if elected to the County Council, I will spend most of my time listening and not talking. Like I said, my name is Todd Cassidy, and I remodeled a home that is 100 years old these past few years. It's been quite an interesting project because when I first bought the house, it was a duplex, and they did not take very good care of it. But I have showed it love and compassion, and I've turned it into a beautiful place to live. And I hope to do the same for Dubois County. I've worked at the same job for over 10 years. It's actually been longer than that. They've been giving me a paycheck for over 10 years. It's my mom's local business. It's in the heart of Dubois County, right next to St. Joseph's Catholic Church. And through working there ever since I was a little kid, I've learned how to save money. I've learned how to spend money correctly. I've learned that you can save a lot of money just by scrimping corners. And I wouldn't say that the County Council doesn't do any of that, but I would definitely be a good asset because I've spent my whole life doing that. Another thing I'd like to mention about the County Council vote is that you get 3 of them. I don't know if a lot of people know this. A lot of people are new to voting, and just like to let that be known. And I also promise that if elected, I will participate in as many community committees that would have me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cassidy. Next is Councilman Mike Kluesner.
First of all, I want to thank, VUJC and the Chamber, Nancy and Kristen, for hosting this and all the news media outlets give us an opportunity to speak here tonight. I am Mike Kluesner, and I am seeking a second term on the Dubois County Council. I'm a lifelong resident of Dubois County, and being raised in Jasper, I was one of 10 children born to Markos and Jeanette Kluesner. I'm currently living in Brettsville with my wife Nancy and our 2 colleagues, and I have 2 grown sons, Jared and Jonathan. I graduated from Jasper High School, and I hold an associate degree in architectural engineering. I served in the Indiana National Guard and the U.S. Army Reserve and retired after 21 years of honorable military service. I'm a former owner of various small businesses in Dubois County and retired from Cypher Construction. I'm a member of the Holy Family Church. I serve on the Facilities Management Committee and the Bereavement Luncheon Ministry. I'm a member of various civic organizations and was a member of the Ferdinand Kiwanis for 28 years, serving 2 separate terms as president, and I was given the opportunity or the Outstanding President's Award for my civic service. As a council member, I am involved with and serve on various organizations, boards, and committees. I feel uniquely qualified to continue to hold a seat on the Dubois County Council. Being fully retired gives me the time to dedicate and to be actively involved in public service and available to listen to the concerns of the county's citizens and taxpayers. I look forward to continuing the fine working relationship I have with the other county council members, the county commissioners, and the county employees for the betterment of Dubois County. I am very proud of our county, and I will provide the leadership and hard work it deserves. I am excited about the opportunity to continue to serve, and I respectfully ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Kluesner. Next is Atalie Schroering.
Thank you all for having me. My name is Atalie Schroering. I'm a 2001 graduate of Northeast Dubois High School, and I now am a teacher for the Dubois County Health Science program that's located here at VUJ. So I get all county schools that come into my classroom, which is pretty amazing. And they come to me because they are interested in the health career. I am a nurse and now a teacher. I moved away after high school and said that I would not be back here because I wanted to go out and see the world. And so I did that. I went to college, I went and moved to Indianapolis, decided to do travel nursing, moved back to Indianapolis after a couple years of doing that, and then met my husband, we had our kiddos, and we moved back here. We moved back here for all the reasons actually that took me away from Dubois County. Everyone knowing everybody when you're a teenager is interesting because everybody knows everything that's going on. Being a parent, you come back here because there's safety in that. So I moved back here with my family. My kiddos are wildcats now. We recently moved from in town in Jasper to a quaint little house outside of Hayesville. We have 14 acres. We have woods and trees and dirt bike trails and all of these things. I came in late to this race, really, and the driving factor for me was the Mid-State Corridor. The Mid-State Corridor is a risk to my home and to so many other people in this community. Being a mom and a nurse and a teacher, I'm an advocate, and I advocate for people all the time in all of my roles. And I want to advocate for this community and all the people that will be impacted by the Mid-State Corridor, and that is why I'm here, to use my voice, because I have learned a lot from people here. This is personal to me, and I want to know that I did everything that I can for this community and the reason that I moved back here.
Thank you, Mrs. Schroering.
Thank you.
Next is Councilman Doug Uebelhor.
Good evening. My name is Doug Uebelhor, and I'm a current county councilman. Thank you for having us this evening, the UJC and the Jasper Chamber of Commerce and all the media outlets. I was born and raised in Jasper in Dubois County, went to Jasper High School, graduated in 1999, and then went to Indiana University where I studied education and graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree in education with the main focus in math and computer. I came back to Jasper because Jasper is my home and that's where I saw myself. Jasper is a great place to live. Dubois County is a great place to live, to raise a family, and that was my goal when I came back. Started working at Jasper High School in various positions, remediation, math and English. summer school teacher, and club sponsor. After spending about 6 years there, I got involved in politics about 10 years ago. I became a county commissioner, and where I worked on various things for the county, making sure that the county council, county commissioners, all the elected officials were held to a higher standard, I feel, by making sure the meetings for the commissioners were recorded to open transparency and making them more available. Fast forward to now, I'm on the council. I married my wife, Caitlin, 3 years ago, and we have a beautiful daughter, Emma, that is, both are the light of my life, and I couldn't ask for anything more. I want to make sure that Dubois County is well taken care of as far as financially and be as fiscally conservative as possible. And I hope to stay on the county council and ask for your vote to remain on the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Uebelhor. I'd like to note that Councilwoman Sonia Haas had planned to be here this evening, but is now not able to attend. We have drawn the county council candidates' names at random to answer each question for our next segment. For each question, you have up to 3 minutes to respond. And for our first question, we will start with Councilman Doug Uebelhor. Explain how you would use local option income tax revenue and your opinion on how they should be used into the future.
As far as local option income tax revenue, I feel we need to be as fiscally conservative as possible with the funds that we do receive. And I feel that we need to have a plan to use those funds wisely. I've said before that I feel we need to have at least a 5-year or a long-term budget plan to allocate and to prepare for any type of foreseen expense in the future that could be used with these funds. I think managing, being prepared, and having a plan set forth beforehand allows us to more wisely and more frugally use those funds so that we have them available as time goes on. I feel this plan is more important now than ever because of the COVID-19 pandemic and the shortcomings that we're going to find as far as our taxes that we receive in from that in the near future. So I think that we need to have a plan going into it and make sure we use those funds wisely.
Thank you, Councilman Uebelhor. Next is Matt Brosmer. Explain how you would use local option income tax revenue and your opinion on how they should be used into the future.
Hi, I would use the local option income tax for, I would just mainly use it for the citizens of our county, trying to get them rehabilitation and prevention and programs that we know that will work and be beneficial for all of our county. And then also, I think he's correct. We should have a plan, especially going in the future with COVID and the financial downfall we are definitely going to have, and being understanding how we're going to use the funds in the future and being, you know, financially responsible and, you know, not use like rainy day funds to pay for the jail, but to actually use our funds wisely, although that's not the same as a local income tax option, but just to use our funds wisely and not to use them, you know, for projects, but to use them for our citizens and know that we'll get a good return on them.
Thank you. Next is Councilman Mike Kluesner. Explain how you would use local option income tax revenue and your opinion on how they should be used into the future.
as a member of the council, I think we review any kind of expenditure. And, the long-term planning is a great idea, and we've talked about that in many meetings to see, what kind of expenses, future expenses we're going to have. But the justification, I think every meeting we have, we have to go through and see what the needs are first of the county and the departments in the county, and to try to see if we, first of all, use the monies we have wisely, and kind of decide how much we can spend, and this is kind of done during the budget hearings. So I just in the future, we have, I think, so many wants that we need, with the I think with the treatment centers and some kind of a treatment facility, which we're trying to do with the new security center and community corrections building, to try to improve on those facilities, to give us treatment in those facilities. And I think that would be wisely spent, and try to get qualified people to come in and help run these programs. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next is Todd Cassidy. Explain how you would use local option income tax revenue and your opinion on how they should be used into the future.
Thank you for the question, Christian. I personally have never passed a budget. I'm not too fluent on how to spend tax dollars. I can tell you a story about my childhood, though. Most people, when they're growing up, have securities. They have blankets, something like that. Well, my mom always thought it was so funny. I had a bank bag. I'd store every coin that I got in that bag, and I'd watch as it grew. I'd like to see our tax dollars be spent on something that would have that sort of focus in mind. We also, instead of coins, we need to look at it as attracting people into our community and keeping them here. So I'd like to see that money be spent on things that could possibly attract people into our community. Like, I know there's a lot of people wanting to leave Illinois right now, so if we made Southern Indiana a more friendly, inviting place to live, I think that could be very key in the future. Another thing about tax dollars, I think I'd really take a good look at some of the wages of the people that work in this county. I think we have some key assets that are not criminally underpaid, but they could use an overview. Thank you for your question, Christian.
Thank you. And last is Atalie Schroering. Explain how you would use local option income tax revenue and your opinion on how they should be used into the future.
Thank you. The one thing that I think of moving from the cities back to Dubois County, we are, if possible, with an income tax, we need internet and cell phone service in our outlying communities. Moving from Jasper and having high-speed internet and going out to the country, it's beautiful and all things in quiet, but we still learned with COVID that we need to have the ability to have the internet and have a cell phone that gets a call. I have to sometimes go outside of my house to have a phone call that doesn't disconnect, and it's super, super awesome. And my internet is spotty and things like that, and so I think that a discussion needs to be made how to allow this county to have the same internet that maybe we have provided here in Jasper, how to have that connectivity all across this county. I think it can bring in better jobs. I think it will improve school. I think that there are so many things that could be done for the connection that we're seeing in the future that will be a need. I'm always going to be an advocate for mental health and the rehabilitation side that we discussed as well. Anytime that we can improve those centers in a community, the community as a whole benefits. And so having a center that's up to date and using evidence-based practices and having those jobs that can be brought in, mental health professionals will also be key. But to have that here instead of, like Judge Verkamp was saying, and sending people out of the county, it's a need, definitely. So that's my answer.
Thank you. For our next question, we will start with Councilman Mike Kluesner. The primary function of the county council is to serve as the fiscal agent. Based on the projected budget shortfall over the next 3 years, what would you recommend regarding fiscal responsibility and creating or maintaining a balanced budget?
Well, again, I think we need to continually to review the budgets and follow up on the justification of any kind of expenditure. I think the county council, as a county council, we need to communicate with each department head and reiterate the importance of being fiscally conservative at all times, but especially during these revenue shortfalls. I think the federal government has passed the COVID CARES Act, and we've been taking advantage of that. We've purchased, or they have reimbursed us for a lot of the CARES PEE equipment and PPE equipment, and we're trying to use that money and reimburse the budget, help with our budget. So, we've done some large purchase items I think for the emergency management, a truck and and the health department has a truck and trailer. I think that we're purchasing for them. That's all reimbursable expenses. And so we're going to continue to try to review each expenditure that we have and continue to be fiscally conservative. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Atalie Schroering. The primary function of the county council is to serve as the fiscal agent. Based on the projected budget shortfall over the next 3 years, what would you recommend regarding to fiscal responsibility and creating or maintaining a balanced budget?
When we talk about budgets, I think no different than in your household. If you can foresee a shortcoming, then you have to adjust. And so I think it's okay at times to have to idle and to see what happens. I think when looking at possibilities for a new jail, when looking at possibilities for anything that's in the near future, maybe we should sit back a little bit and wait and see, because of the uncertainty that we are still in COVID and we're living in a pandemic. I think it would be okay to sit and collect data and to see where we're going to go before we start allocating and thinking of all of these big spending ticket items. Maybe we just kind of idle and coast for a bit and see what our future holds. Again, leaving open opportunities you don't have to stop talking about ways in which we need to spend, but I think big ticket items maybe can just sit for a little bit as we see what's coming ahead.
Thank you. Next is Councilman Doug Uebelhor. The primary function of the county council is to serve as the fiscal agent. Based on the projected budget shortfall over the next 3 years, what would you recommend regarding fiscal responsibility and creating or maintaining a balanced budget?
I think I've kind of already talked about this a little bit, referring to COVID and the shortcomings that we're going to have as far as the income tax. I feel, like I said before, we need to have a plan. We need to have a long-term plan, a short-term plan, 5 years or more, to make sure that we adjust for anything that's maybe foreseen or unforeseen as far as the amount of money that we're going to get. I also feel that organizations and different clubs or different organizations like the Region 15 EMA office, they do a great job of getting grant dollars into our county. So I think we need to make sure we utilize those resources as much as possible so that we can get as much bang out of our buck, as much use of those funds that we possibly can that are coming from the state. But I do think that we need to have a plan set in place so that we know any foreseen projects or any foreseen expenses that we need to adjust for in the future.
Thank you. Next is Matt Brosmer. The primary function of the county council is to serve as the fiscal agent. Based on the projected budget shortfall over the next 3 years, what would you recommend regarding fiscal responsibility and creating or maintaining a balanced budget?
Hi, thanks again. And what I would recommend would be basically stopping any of the projects, especially the jail expansion. I don't think we should get too ahead of ourselves, spending $25 million essentially on a jail. And also the Mid-States corridor, that should be just stopped entirely. We should just not have that at all, because that will just destroy our community and split it. It will hurt our families, it will hurt our small businesses, and we just don't need it. But then to get economic growth, I believe that we need to focus on our citizens, and we need to make sure that they are happy, they're healthy, and they're financially sound. And then also I think we need to focus on job diversity and bringing in more, I guess, like cultural diversity that will bring in and help with more businesses be attracted to Dubois County. And as I said, I think that stopping those, the jail, and investing more in our citizens and rehabilitative and preventive services will be the best for our citizens and going forward with keeping a financially sound county budget. Thank you.
Thank you. And last is Todd Cassidy. The primary function of the county council is to serve as the fiscal agent. Based on the projected budget shortfall over the next 3 years, what would you recommend regarding fiscal responsibility and creating or maintaining a balanced budget?
Thank you for that great question, Christian. Well, the advantage of going last is you get to point out all the good opinions that everybody else had. Doug had the opinion about the grants. Grants, I think, would be so crucial in a time like this, especially since you see a lot of the funds going out from the counties into the state. So it'd be great to get a little bit of that money back. Matt's opinion about projects going forward. Do we need them? You know, they really need to be scrutinized, especially in this time. If we are going to spend millions of dollars on a project, it needs to have a return somewhat. I'm kind of getting irritated by spending millions of dollars on studies, honestly, specifically during a pandemic. Also, just, you really got to be frugal, but at the same time, you need to keep your assets and you need to know where your assets are. There are a lot of people who work for the county that we need to keep around. When we're reviewing our budget, we need to keep that in mind, that these people are not just expenditures, they are assets. Thanks again, Christian.
Thank you. And for our last question, we will start with Atalie Schroering. There are several important issues affecting Dubois County, either now or into the future. Choose one of the following to share your opinion. Do you think the Mid-States Corridor Road is needed, and do you support Dubois County providing future funding for this project? Or what is your opinion of the current plans for the court and justice system, including its operating and funding?
I get to pick one of those two?
Yes.
Oh, this is a shocker, which one I'm going to pick here. Mid-State Corridor, do I feel that we need the Mid-State Corridor? No. Do I feel like we just allocated $1.7 million to a study when we talk about tightening the reins? Do I think we need to do that? Absolutely not. Do I think the corridor is a part of a private entity stakeholding push? Yes. That also gets to formulate in its own group, that also takes our public dollars and private dollars, but just enough so that the public doesn't get to go into those doors and meetings. That's my frustration, and I think a lot of people's frustrations. When you allow private business to get involved in highways and interstates, do we not assume then that those private businesses will make sure that that gets placed where they would like it versus maybe where the citizens like it, and or if the citizens want it at all? The problem that we hear with the reasoning that we need a mid-state corridor is the connectivity to get from Dale to I-69. We have a road that gets us there, and that would be 231. And if you drive 231, we can see that it absolutely needs to have adjustments and to be fixed. I live off of 56. We are repairing that just opened up. And then they're going to do Cinderwet curve as well. And we've got these funds that are going into certain roads, but we definitely need to maintain what we have. The Mid-State Corridor will rip apart a county that I moved back to and so many others moved back to because of the beauty that this county has, because it has the small town, it has the cute shops, it has all of the things that make people want to come back here. Having a bypass around your town equals people bypassing your town. So the discussion needs to be listening more to what your public is saying and maybe less of listening to what private business says, and then allowing them to have these groups that take dollars and then go and get private groups, then do said surveys and to collect the data that they themselves want in a way that they want it to be said so that they get what they want. And so no, do I feel we need the Mid-State Corridor? Absolutely not.
Thank you. Next is Matt Brosmer. There are several important issues affecting Dubois County now and into the future. Choose one of the following to share your opinion. Do you think the Mid-States Corridor Road is needed? And do you support Dubois County providing future funding for this project? Or what is your opinion of the current plans for the court and justice system, including its operating and funding?
Thanks again for that question. I'm going to choose the criminal justice. Yeah. I think that the current proposal for that is, I don't think it's a good idea. Of the 190, 200 bed, I think that is a little too high. I don't think it's based on any like measurable data that's really going to be foreseen in like 10 years to have 50 more, 60 more people in jail. And I think that we should be putting a lot more emphasis on rehabilitation and prevention services for our citizens, as I said, and even just here in the county, like a lot of people are on substances. Even where I have worked at before, there was a random drug test and 5 out of the 9 people tested positive. And I mean, that's a clear problem in our county, showing that the number of individuals. I have friends who have almost overdosed and were in a coma. And I think that we just need to treat our citizens better. I think we need to put more money into this because it's actually a really important issue and affects a lot of people's lives. And yeah, it would be much better use for tax dollars to go towards that. And I don't think it's wise to go building a jail during the middle of a pandemic. And yeah.
Thank you. Next is Todd Cassidy. Choose one of the following to share your opinion. Do you think the Mid-States Corridor Road is needed, and do you support Dubois County providing future funding for this project? Or what is your opinion of the current plans for the court and justice system, including its operations and funding?
Tough choice. I will choose the latter because drug addiction is something that has affected my family personally. Let me start by saying a quote from one of my favorite economists, Milton Friedman. Government's solution to a problem is usually worse than the problem. when it comes specifically to our government's reaction to drug addiction in this county, her solution has been to build a new jail. Well, I ask, I'm not really too fluent in what goes on between the sheriffs and the commissioners and all these people, but I've noticed that we have an asset in community corrections that has been profound in the way that it's been shaping people's lives locally. Megan Dirtles, the director, she is fantastic at her job. When we built community corrections 25 years ago, we made a promise that it is going to be a standalone facility. And it's going to fuel itself. The county will not have anything to do with it. I think that the changing landscape and the judicial system, more people getting addicted to drugs and more alcohol abuse and a lot of these issues. I don't think you can solve it by putting them in jail. I'd like to see more of our county budget being spent towards community corrections. Going back to the grants, Megan has basically turned into a grant writer at this point. She spends most of her day just trying to get grants to fuel the community corrections. Maybe we could take some of that load off her shoulders. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Councilman Doug Uebelhor. Choose one of the following to share your opinion. Do you think the Mid-States Corridor Road is needed, and do you support Dubois County providing funding for this project? What is your opinion, or what is your opinion of the current plans for the court and justice system, including its operations and funding?
It's a tough one to choose between. I like to answer both of them, but I believe I'm going to answer the corridor question. I'm against the project and any further funding for it. But we need to address the underlying issue. Why did the project start to begin with? It was because of connectivity. And no one's really given a good alternative solution for that issue. Atalie has talked about the 231, and I agree that we have a current infrastructure in place that we can use, and the state has already in the past said that they would improve 231. I think we need to focus on that and make sure that we hold them accountable and make sure that 231 is improved to an adequate infrastructure for us to connect to the different parts of the state. I think we already have it. It's not going to cost near as much as the project for the Mid-State Corridor. And I think we should utilize our resources that we already have. And that would allow the state to use other resources for other highways locally around here, possibly in the future.
Thank you. Next, or last, is Councilman Mike Kluesner. Choose one of the following to share your opinion. Do you think the Mid-States Corridor Road is needed, and do you support Dubois County providing future funding for this project? Or what is your opinion of the current plans for the court and justice system, including its operations and funding?
Okay, since I'm going to choose the Justice Center. I've been on the justice study since it originally started, and that was I think back in 2017. We had the National Institute of Corrections come down and review both facilities, the Security Center and the Community Corrections, and some of their results were when they viewed the facility, it was clean. We got a great operating facility, but it was obsolete the day it opened. It was constructed in 1990. It's got a capacity of 67 beds. I checked this past Sunday evening, and we had 77 inmates in there. So it's overcrowded as far as state standard says. There's the current facility has no available space for programming, and that's I think what's what everyone's talking about. There's no space in the existing facility to have programming. And I'm speaking at the Security Center now, Jail officers lack line of sight for supervision. They lack staff space for the sheriff's department and any other activities that's going on. And the mechanical and lighting systems are obsolete. And that's, 30 years ago. So everything with LED lighting, it's just not an efficient operating system. The new renovated facility is going to be, the existing jail is going to be, it's going to remain, and it's going to be completely renovated and upgraded. The EMA will be housed at this facility as a separate entrance. The additional staff area, we're going to provide additional staff areas. We're going to provide programming rooms and the classrooms. We're going to have group areas, group therapy areas. We're going to enlarge the kitchen. We're going to have a new medical area with isolation rooms. We're going to have in the renovated area, we're going to have 54 programming beds, and in the new jail pod, I think there's 152 beds. By doing this, we're going to limit the liability that Dubois County has for on the facility if anything would happen. We're going to improve the working conditions for the county staff, and we're providing future needs. On the community correction side, we're going to completely renovate the facility. We're going to add a new building addition. We're going to increase staff space and private offices. We're going to provide classrooms and programming space. We're going to provide separate entries before the public and the participants. We're going to have controlled space for the pat-down areas and a body scanner. We're going to provide classification and separation for both men and women. We're going to provide laundry facilities for each dormitory. So the lack of, right now there's a lack of beds in that facility for women, and they are remaining in jail because there's a lack of space there. So I think by upgrading these facilities, it's going to be money well spent. We got the CR dollars to do it. The CR tax was initiated last year, and we're already bringing funds in for that. So that's how we can pay for it.
Thank you, Councilman Kluesner. The 2020 general election will be Tuesday, November 3rd from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Registered voters must vote in their precinct-specific location and must show a photo ID to check in. Early voting for the 2020 general election is available now across Indiana and Dubois County. The Dubois County Courthouse Annex is open at select times now through Monday, November 2nd. For a complete listing of early voting locations and times, please visit indianavoters.in.gov and click on Find Your Polling Place, or call the Dubois County Clerk's Office at 812-481-7035. Thank you to each of the candidates for pursuing public service and for giving of your time this evening to discuss the issues. Thank you to the Jasper Arts Center for hosting us this evening, and to the Jasper Chamber of Commerce and Vincennes University Jasper, and all of our media partners for sponsoring this event. And last but not least, thank you to all those out there listening, watching, and engaging in the democratic process. Please plan to vote now through 6 p.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday, November 3rd. Thank you for all your time, and have a good evening.